The air bit at Noah's and Elias's skin as they trudged through the snow-draped expanse of their local park. A rare patch of green in their quiet little town that now lay buried under a thick white blanket. It was the holiday season, and the biting cold had driven everyone indoors, leaving the park eerily deserted. Both men, roommates who shared a modest apartment nearby, had ventured out for a breath of fresh air, hoping to shake off the cabin fever that had settled in during the relentless winter. Their cheeks glowed red from the chill, their gloved fingers aching despite the layers, and the crunch of snow beneath their boots echoed in the stillness. They were already turning back, the promise of warmth and hot cocoa luring them home, when a faint sound pierced the icy silence. A soft, almost imperceptible whimper carried on the wind, mingling with the rustle of frozen branches. Elias, a dedicated volunteer at the town's animal shelter, halted mid-step, his keen ears catching the noise. He tilted his head, signaling to Noah with a raised eyebrow. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, his breath forming a small cloud in the frigid air. Noah paused, straining to listen, and nodded as the sound came again. Clearer this time, a weak, pitiful whine that could only belong to a dog. Their eyes met, a shared understanding passing between them, and they moved cautiously toward a cluster of snow-laden trees, their footsteps muffled by the thick layer underfoot. They kept their voices low, careful not to startle whatever creature might be hiding there, their hearts quickening with a mix of curiosity and concern. As they drew closer, a small figure emerged from the whiteness, curled tightly into itself, trembling beneath a mound of snow that had piled on its fur. It was a dog, its form barely distinguishable under the icy cover, and it lay motionless as if the cold had drained the last of its strength. The poor animal had clearly been there for some time, abandoned to the mercy of the elements. Even as Noah and Elias approached, the dog didn't lift its head, didn't flinch, didn't bark, a sign that it had surrendered to its fate. Noah crouched down, his knees sinking into the snow, and gently brushed his gloved hand across the dog's head. Her eyes remained closed, her body stiff, the chill having seeped deep into her bones. Elias knelt beside him, his shelter-honed instincts kicking in as he tried to assess her condition. But there was no response, no twitch, no sign of life beyond the faint rise and fall of her shallow breathing. The dog was a pitiful sight, her frame reduced to skin and bones, a clear testament to days, perhaps weeks, of survival on her own. Noah's gaze softened with sympathy, assuming she was just another stray in need of rescue, a familiar challenge for Elias. But then, something else caught his eye, a tiny shape nestled against the dog's side, almost buried in the snow. He leaned in closer, his breath catching as he gently brushed the snow away, revealing not another animal but a child. Hey, are you all right?" he said urgently, his voice cracking with panic as he placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. She didn't stir, didn't respond, her small body limp and unresponsive. A surge of fear shot through him, his heart pounding as he realized the gravity of what they had stumbled upon. Without hesitation, Noah shed his scarf and wrapped it around the girl, his fingers trembling as he lifted her fragile form into his arms. Her skin was pale, her lips a disturbing shade of blue, and her thin jacket, though zipped up, offered little protection against the brutal cold. She couldn't have been more than 10 years old, her delicate features obscured by frost. Elias, meanwhile, scooped up the dog, her limp body heavy in his arms, her breathing so faint it was barely detectable. The dog had clearly done her utmost to shield the child, curling around her to share what little warmth she had left. But it hadn't been enough to combat the relentless freeze. For a moment, the two men stood frozen, overwhelmed by the sight. Before them, their minds racing to process the unthinkable. Then instinct took over. Noah fumbled for his phone, dialing emergency services with shaky hands, while Elias pulled up his shelter contact list, desperately calling every vet he knew. Despite the holiday closures, the wait felt eternal, the cold seeping into their bones as they stood guard over their fragile charges. 30 minutes later, the faint wail of an ambulance broke through the silence, its lights flashing against the snow but its siren muted to preserve the quiet. Noah rushed toward the paramedics, clutching the girl tightly against his chest, whispering, "Hang on just a little longer," his voice a plea to both her and the universe. Elias, still on the phone, finally connected with a small animal rescue clinic, explaining the situation in a rush. The voice on the line instructed him to bring the dog immediately, promising a vet would be waiting. Without a second thought, Elias carefully placed the dog in the passenger seat of his car and sped off through the snowy roads, his mind a tumult of hope and dread. At the clinic, the vet met him at the door, her expression a mix of urgency and compassion. After a quick examination, she confirmed that the dog had minor injuries and was severely undernourished, but would likely survive with proper care. Relief washed over Elias, though his thoughts remained with Noah and the girl. Back at the hospital, Noah paced the sterile hallway, his eyes fixed on the doors where the medical team worked furiously to save the child. She was fully dressed, jacket, gloves, boots, but her body temperature had plummeted to a dangerous low, her heart rate sluggish on the monitors. The doctors moved with precision, wrapping her in thermal blankets, connecting her to a ventilator, and using advanced machines to warm her blood. Her condition was critical. Her face drained of color, yet miraculously her vital organs clung to life. When Elias arrived, the two men sat in silence, exhaustion etched into their features, waiting for news. A nurse approached after a time, her voice gentle but firm. "She's stable now," she said, "but as a minor we can't share more unless her parents are here. She's not out of danger yet, but that dog's warmth gave her a fighting chance." The words lifted a weight from their shoulders, a flicker of hope breaking through the fear. They still didn't know how the girl had ended up in that field, or how long she'd been there, but for now her survival was enough. They returned home in quiet exhaustion, too drained to speak, their minds filled with the image of the dog and child huddled together, a bond forged in the harshest of conditions. The next morning dawned with a pale light filtering through the frost-covered windows of Noah and Elias's apartment, the events of the previous day replaying in their minds like a haunting refrain. Neither had slept well, their thoughts consumed by the little girl and the dog they had found in the snow. Without a word, they rose early, their shared concern propelling them into action as they dressed and drove to the local police station. The drive was silent, the crunch of tires on snow the only sound, their breaths fogging the car windows. At the station, they recounted every detail, the exact spot in the field, the girl's tattered clothing, the hospital where she had been taken, hoping to shed light on her identity. The officer listened intently, his pen scratching notes, and after consulting a stack of reports, he nodded solemnly. "A missing child alert was filed yesterday afternoon," he said. "Her name is Mila. Her family's been searching all night and has just been notified of her location. They're heading to the hospital now." Relief flooded through Noah and Elias, a weight lifting from their chests as they thanked the officer and hurried back to the hospital. The building loomed ahead, its stark white walls a beacon of both hope and uncertainty. Upon arrival, a doctor intercepted them before they could reach the ward, his face weary but carrying a glimmer of optimism. "Mila had a rough night," he began, his voice measured. "Her body went into shock multiple times due to hypothermia, and she experienced several seizures. It took everything we had to stabilize her." He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle. "But this morning, her core temperature rose slightly and is holding steady. She's still unconscious, but we're cautiously optimistic. If she continues to improve, she might wake later today." The news was a lifeline, and the doctor's next words added to their relief. "Given what you did for her, we're making a special exception. You can visit her briefly, though only this once. Further contact will need her parents' permission." Grateful, they nodded, their steps tentative as they followed the nurse into Mila's room. The space was filled with the steady beep of machines, the air warm with the hum of medical equipment. Mila lay wrapped in thick thermal blankets, her small form almost lost beneath them, her face pale but peaceful. As they approached her bed, a miracle unfolded. Her eyelids fluttered, then opened slowly, her gaze unfocused as it scanned the room. Her lips parted slightly as if struggling to form words, and though she looked incredibly fragile, a spark of life shone in her eyes. Before they could react, she attempted to sit up, her weak movements prompting the nurse to step in swiftly. "Please wait outside," the nurse said kindly but firmly, guiding them back into the hallway as she called for the doctor. As they stood in the corridor, their hearts pounding with a mix of awe and anxiety, the automatic doors burst open. A woman rushed in, her voice rising in a panicked cry. "Where's Mila? Where's my daughter?" Tears streaked her pale face, her desperation palpable. A man followed, his attempts to calm her drowned out by her fear. A nurse hurried over, leading them toward Mila's room, and Noah and Elias watched from the sidelines, their throats tight with emotion. "That must be her mother," Elias murmured, his voice thick. Through the window, they saw Mila's tension ease as she recognized the familiar face, the sight of her mother bringing a semblance of safety. Knowing she was in good hands, they decided it was time to leave, their mission complete. The nurse approached again, asking for a phone number in case of future contact, and they agreed before stepping into the cold morning air, their hearts lighter but still heavy with the day's events. 2 days passed without word, the silence stretching their nerves thin. They assumed the hospital had informed Mila's family and that she was on the mend, but the lack of updates left them restless. Then, unexpectedly, Noah's phone rang, the caller ID displaying an unfamiliar number. It was Amelia, Mila's mother, her voice warm with gratitude. "I'd like to meet you both in person to thank you," she said. They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near the park where it all began, their anticipation building as they drove over. To their surprise, not only Amelia, but Mila herself was there, bundled in a thick coat, scarf, and hat. Her cheeks were pink, her eyes sparkling with life, a stark contrast to the frozen child they had found. Amelia stood, embracing them both with tears in her eyes, introducing herself and Mila, who offered a shy wave. Amelia then shared the full story. Mila had been walking home from school, a mere 10-minute journey, when a sudden snowstorm had descended, blanketing the town in over 2 feet of snow. Visibility dropped to near zero, disorienting her, and she had wandered into the field, her strength failing as the cold took hold. She collapsed, her memory fading until she felt the dog curl beside her. "It was pure luck or something more that you were there," Amelia said, her voice breaking. "And that dog stayed with her, sharing her warmth." Mila peppered them with questions. Where they'd found her, how long the dog had stayed, her curiosity a sign of her recovery. When they mentioned the shelter, her face lit up, sparking a plan Amelia revealed. They intended to adopt the dog, naming her Lumi, meaning snow in Finnish, a tribute to their fateful meeting. The cafe buzzed softly with the hum of conversation as Noah and Elias sat across from Amelia and Mila. The warmth of the space a stark contrast to the icy field where their paths had crossed. Mila, now a vibrant presence in her thick coat and scarf, leaned forward, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Where exactly did you find me?" she asked, her voice eager but tinged with the innocence of a child still processing her ordeal. Noah smiled, recounting the cluster of trees, the snow piled high, and the moment they'd spotted her nestled against the dog. Elias chimed in, describing the dog's limp form, her unwavering dedication to keeping Mila warm. She never left. "Your side," he said, his voice softening. Mila's face glowed with wonder, and she turned to her mother. "Can we see her again? Can we adopt her?" Amelia nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "We've decided to adopt her," she confirmed, her voice steady, despite the tears threatening to fall. After we got home from the hospital, Mila couldn't stop talking about the dog, how she pressed close, sharing her warmth. "We've never had a pet before and our apartment's small, but this dog saved her life. We owe her everything." She explained that the shelter had posted Lumi's story online, sparking an outpouring of adoption requests from kind families across the region. Yet, none could rival the bond already formed between Mila and the dog. The shelter staff moved, by the tail, paused other applications, prioritizing Amelia and Mila's request. Over the next few weeks, they navigated paperwork, home visits, and guidance on feeding and training, Mila soaking up every detail with eager enthusiasm. The day Lumi came home was a celebration of new beginnings. Mila could hardly contain herself as they entered the shelter, her excitement palpable. Lumi, resting on a cushioned bed, perked up at the sight of her, her ears twitching and tail wagging slowly. As Mila approached, the dog trotted forward, then broke into a run, leaping into Mila's arms. The girl knelt, laughing as Lumi licked her cheeks and whined softly, the connection between them undeniable. Even the shelter staff watching with misty eyes wiped away tears. Amelia knelt beside them, placing a hand on Lumi's back. "Thank you for staying with my daughter," she whispered, her voice thick with gratitude. "Thank you for not giving up." The ride home was quiet, filled with emotion. Mila's arms wrapped around Lumi in the back seat, a silent promise of forever. At home, Amelia had prepared a cozy corner for Lumi. A cushioned bed, new toys, a water bowl and a soft blanket, while Mila added a hand-drawn sign reading Lumi's place and a star-shaped stuffed toy. Lumi sniffed every corner, then settled into her bed with a contented sigh as if she had always belonged there. Life soon found a new rhythm. Mila woke early to feed Lumi, their walks in the melting park becoming a daily ritual where Lumi befriended a neighborhood dog named Pepper. At night, Lumi curled at Mila's feet as she did homework, her steady breathing a soothing lullaby. Amelia, once hesitant about pet ownership, rearranged her schedule to be home more, finding healing in Lumi's presence. The dog had banished Mila's nightmares, replacing them with confidence and joy, a guardian woven into the fabric of their family. One afternoon, Amelia called Noah and Elias, inviting them for a small gathering to see Mila's progress and reunite with Lumi. They arrived to warm hugs, fresh coffee, and Mila's beaming smile. Lumi bounded over, recognizing her rescuers, her tail wagging furiously. Elias knelt, laughing as she licked his face, while Noah scratched her ears, a soft smile on his lips. They sat together, laughing and reliving the story, not the cold or fear, but the miracle of their connection. Mila showed them Lumi's corner, her favorite treats, and a drawing of the snowy field with Lumi beside her, the word family scrawled at the top. The gathering solidified a bond that transcended the initial rescue, a family forged in the snow. Weeks later, Mila's school hosted a storytelling event, inviting parents and guests to hear tales of courage and kindness. Amelia didn't expect much, knowing Mila's shyness and ongoing recovery, but when her name was called, she walked to the front with Lumi's leash in hand and a paper trembling in her grasp. Amelia's heart raced as Mila took a deep breath and began. She didn't dwell on the cold or her fear. Instead, she spoke of warmth, how a strange dog had curled beside her, sharing heat until help arrived. "She saved me," Mila concluded, looking at Lumi. "So now I make sure she never feels alone again." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause, Amelia blinking back tears of pride. The school later shared the recording with Noah and Elias, who were deeply moved. "That little girl has more strength in her heart than most adults I know," Noah texted, his words a testament to Mila's resilience. The weeks following Lumi's adoption brought a quiet joy to Mila's family, her bond with the dog deepening with each passing day. Lumi followed her everywhere, school drop-offs, weekend park walks, quiet afternoons on the living room rug, her presence a constant comfort. Amelia, once wary of the responsibility, couldn't imagine their lives without her, the dog's gentle spirit healing the lingering scars of Mila's ordeal. Noah and Elias checked in regularly, sometimes joining the family for park lunches or calling to hear updates. Their connection to Mila and Lumi a thread that wove through their lives. The memory of that snowy field where they'd found a half-frozen dog and an unresponsive child had changed them, a quiet strength they carried daily. One Saturday morning, a letter arrived from the shelter, its envelope bearing a small photo of Lumi during her early days. Muddy, scared, uncertain. On the back, a handwritten note read, "Thank you for giving her a second chance. She gave you one too." Though unsigned, Amelia suspected it was from a veteran volunteer, and she framed the photo, placing it near Lumi's bed as a reminder of their journey. As months passed, Mila's confidence grew, her teachers noting her engagement in class. Whenever asked to write or speak, she shared the same story of a snowy park, a dog with eyes like winter, and the lesson that heroes sometimes walk on four legs. Then, unexpectedly, the story took a new turn. A local newspaper had picked up the shelter's social media post about Lumi's adoption, amplifying Mila's tale of survival thanks to a loyal dog. The narrative spread online, capturing the attention of journalists who reached out for interviews. Amelia hesitated, protective of Mila's privacy, but her daughter's simple plea, "It might help someone else," convinced her. A short video interview was filmed in the park, showing Mila and Lumi playing together, the girl's voice clear and earnest. "I didn't know her name," Mila said, "but I knew she wouldn't leave me." That line resonated with thousands, sparking a flood of comments from strangers, pet lovers, dog owners, and those inspired to adopt. Amelia was overwhelmed, but the positivity lifted her spirits, a reminder that small acts of love could change lives. The story's traction grew, featured on news outlets that celebrated the blend of survival, kindness, and the unbreakable bond between child and dog. The video went viral, its message touching hearts worldwide. Amelia marveled at the outpouring, her initial reluctance giving way to pride as Mila embraced her role as a storyteller. The shelter director soon invited them to an adoption awareness event, and Amelia agreed, knowing its significance to Mila. At the event, Mila stood on stage with Lumi, facing a crowd of families, volunteers, and animal lovers. Without a script, she spoke from the heart, her voice steady. "Lumi was there when no one else was," she said. "Love doesn't always need words. It's about staying close when it matters most." She held up a sign reading, "Adopt, because someone might be waiting to save you too," and the room erupted in applause. Amelia watched, her heart swelling as she saw the impact of Mila's words, smiling faces, wagging tails, hopeful families. The event shifted something within her, a realization that their small apartment and quiet lives were fertile ground for a love as vast as the one Lumi had brought. A few weeks later, they returned to the shelter, not for an event, but for a personal milestone. The paperwork was complete, the home visit done, and a final call confirmed Lumi's adoption. Amelia held her breath as she answered, fearing a last-minute hitch, but was met with cheerful congratulations. Lumi was officially theirs. In the shelter lobby, Mila vibrated with excitement, Lumi walking beside her as if they'd always been a pair. A volunteer handed Mila a certificate and a ribbon for Lumi's collar, smiling warmly. "She's officially yours," she said, but she already knew that. The shelter lobby buzzed with a quiet energy as Mila crouched down, her small hands cupping Lumi's face, her voice a tender whisper. "You're home now forever," she said, her eyes shining with joy. Lumi responded with a gentle lick on her cheek, then pressed her head into Mila's chest, a simple moment that carried the weight of their shared survival. Amelia watched, her throat tight with emotion, as the volunteer handed over the adoption certificate, a ribbon tied around Lumi's collar marking the official bond. The paperwork was finalized, the home visit a success, and the shelter staff's final call had been one of celebration. Lumi was now part of their family. It was a culmination of a journey that began in the snow, a testament to the unexpected, paths love could carve. Back at their apartment, Amelia had spent hours preparing a special welcome corner for Lumi. A cushioned bed, new toys, a water bowl, and a soft blanket, all arranged with care. Mila added her own touches, a hand-drawn sign reading Lumi's place in colorful markers and a star-shaped stuffed toy, a symbol of the light Lumi had brought into their lives. Lumi explored the space, sniffing each item before settling into her bed with a contented sigh, as if she had always known this place was hers. That evening, Noah and Elias arrived for dinner, a tradition born from their shared experience, now a cornerstone of their evolving family. Mila eagerly showed them every detail of Lumi's corner, her voice animated as she described each toy and treat. Amelia watched from the kitchen, her heart full, marveling at how a cold, terrifying day had woven such warmth into their lives. After dinner, they gathered in the living room, the soft glow of a lamp casting a cozy light over the scene. Mila leaned against Amelia. Lumi curled at their feet, her tail swishing gently. For the first time in months, a deep peace settled over the room. No tension, no fear, just the quiet comfort of togetherness. Later, as Noah and Elias left, Amelia sat by Mila's bedside, the girl already asleep with Lumi beside her. She smoothed Mila's hair, then looked at the dog, whose presence had saved them both in ways beyond the physical. No words were needed. The room was filled with unspoken gratitude. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft flakes drifting past the window, but it no longer felt threatening, just a gentle reminder of winter's beauty. In the days that followed, Amelia noticed a transformation in Mila. Her laughter rang more freely, her sleep undisturbed by nightmares, replaced by a peaceful rest with Lumi as her guardian. Teachers remarked on her newfound confidence, her engagement in class a stark contrast to her earlier withdrawal. Whenever tasked with a story or presentation, Mila retold the tale of the snowy park, the dog with winter-like eyes, and the lesson that heroes could have 4 legs. One afternoon, a letter from the shelter arrived, enclosing a photo of Lumi's early days, muddy, scared, uncertain, with a note. "Thank you for giving her a second chance. She gave you one too." Amelia framed it, placing it near Lumi's bed, a silent tribute to their shared journey. Weeks turned to months, and Lumi's role in their lives solidified. She waited at the door for Mila's return from school, curled beside her bed at night, a silent protector woven into their routine. Amelia, once hesitant, embraced her role as a pet owner, finding joy in the stability Lumi brought. Noah and Elias remained close, their regular check-ins and park lunches a lifeline to the day that changed them all. One Saturday, Mila's school hosted a storytelling event, and though Amelia expected little, Mila's name was called. She walked to the front with Lumi, her paper trembling but her voice steady. She spoke of warmth, not cold, of the dog who stayed, sharing heat until help arrived. "She saved me," she concluded, "so I make sure she never feels alone." The applause that followed was a testament to her strength. The story's reach grew when a local newspaper picked it up, sparking a viral wave online. Journalists interviewed Mila, her words, "I knew she wouldn't leave me," touching thousands. Comments flooded in, inspiring adoptions and spreading hope. The shelter invited Mila and Lumi to an adoption event where she held up a sign, "Adopt because someone might be waiting to save you too." The crowd's response affirmed the power of their bond. Weeks later, Lumi's adoption was finalized, a quiet ceremony sealing their family. As they drove home, Mila whispered to Lumi, "You're mine forever," and the dog's gentle lick sealed the promise. Their lives, once marked by a cold, silent snow, now thrived with the warmth of an unbreakable love.